Well, a few days ago, there's been a joint release by the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, Jamb, and other educational stakeholders. This release is a statement issued about the current cut-off marks of universities, polytechnics, and nursing sciences. There's been a general outcry of massive decline in the standard of education in Nigeria. What do you think? Well, this morning we are discussing Jamb and new admission standards for tertiary institutions in Nigeria from a youth perspective. Our guest is Stephen Chima, a youth ambassador, joins us in studio this morning for this discussion. Good morning, Stephen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm good to be here.
All right, so first things first, who is a youth ambassador?
Well, thanks for that question. To start with, a youth ambassador is simply someone that cares about the youth development, someone that is interested in contributing his or her quota to conversations around young people, social impact around building the younger generation. So, I mean, that's basically who a youth advocate or a youth ambassador is. It's just somebody that stands at the front and advocates for
the
young people.
Is it partisan?
Of course not. It cannot be partisan. So and it's just within the jurisdiction that you found yourself. Particularly what I do is talk about Nigeria and then help the people around me to grow, host programs, social impact initiatives, get towards the younger people, So there's nothing partisan in that. Although we see in Nigeria how some youth groups, youth organizations capitalize on political affairs and then they build partisan ideologies, but that's not what it should be. It should be non-partisan.
That's fine. Okay, so in my introduction, I did mention that a few days ago, there was a joint release about the new cut-off marks for universities, polytechnics, and nursing sciences. I think for universities, it's 150, for the rest is 100. What do you make of that? Because there's been a general, outcry, saying it's an outrage. I mean, it's a complete degradation of our standard of education. But you as a young person, because many of these people are talking from a vantage point, maybe parents and maybe teachers, but from someone who has tried to get into the university a couple of times from a young person, how do you think this news, should appeal to such a person? How do you see this? Is it really a reduction in standard, or you think is a leeway for students to get admission?
Well, just like you rightly pointed out a few days ago, the Joint Admission and Matriculations Board, they had their annual policy meeting where they reeled out some new standards according to them that would become guidelines for Jamb admission henceforth. So, and probably the top amongst the discussion was the issue of the cutoff. 150 cutoff for the university, I think 120 for nursing sciences and 100 for polytechnics. So I'm personally going to share my thoughts on that. A lot of people have come up with different ideas regarding that. Some accept that this is going to be an opportunity, and in fact, according to Jamb, it's going to give access to more students to get into the university, and they hinge on that point as an advantage of such a policy. But I am going to take a different stance on that, because if you are thinking about giving more access to students, and that is why you are reducing the pass mark of that of an important examination as Jamb, which, by the way, is the most important exam a student need to pass to have access to the tertiary institution. If you don't pass Jamb, you cannot be in the university. So if Jamb is considering cutting off the pass mark to 150, I think it's going to have a telling impact on the standard of education that we have in this country. And what is particularly, troubling for me is the reason they have given.
Yes.
Access for more students to enter into the university. Is that what we should be talking about? Access for more students? Why not we talk about the quality of these students that are entering our universities? Why don't we talk about the infrastructures that would accommodate these students? Why don't we talk about the environments they are getting into? How have we prepared the tertiary institution environment?
Does that lie under the purview of Jamb, though?
Well, it doesn't particularly lie under the purview of Jamb, but they should put it in consideration because they work in relationship with all other organizations or government institutions that are responsible to provide these infrastructures. So you get into the university today and then you find facility that should accommodate maybe 100 students, and it's being given to 200, 250. The students are learning in a very unconducive environment, and all we care about is let them just go into the university. To do what? Why don't we make sure that the number of students that are being admitted into the institutions are the number that the institution can train effectively to produce quality, in this country, we're just producing graduates. We're not producing leaders. We're not producing people who can handle a lot of responsibilities after they have graduated.
That's right.
So, and this is majorly part of the reasons. So, although to be fair to Jamb, they also said that the institutions have the leverage to set their own cutoff. So, I don't think universities like the UNN or UI can admit anybody with 150 benchmark. I don't think that is possible, especially for the highly professional courses. So I am just telling the institutions to go back. Jamb has put it at 150, but let them raise the bar a little so that we can be sure that the people coming into the schools, they have at least prepared themselves to be able to take on the responsibilities in the university. So that's my own opinion.
Interesting though, because there's something you mentioned, and I do know for a shorty that there are a number of accredited students that should be admitted, in a faculty.
That's true.
Right? Now, if Jamb is talking about reducing the cutoff mark just to accommodate more, there should be that check and balance, from within the university, because councils, professional councils come to accredit departments,
yes,
and then tell them this is the number you're supposed to take, right?
Yes.
So do you think Jamb is actually their reasons for reduction in the cutoff does not really hold much water, knowing that even when you grant them that access and you find out that the nets can accommodate more students to come in, when they get to the department level or the faculty level, are they all going to be admitted regardless of the accredited numbers that the professional councils stipulate? I don't know if you understand my question.
Yes, I do.
Now, sorry, let me just give you a little bit of context. Okay. Now, the consequence will be that students are, admitted, and then along the line, somehow, they are just dropped, so that the councils will give the go-ahead for these ones to graduate. Now, do you think this is the deliberate thing that Jamb is trying to, enable? Because we've seen it countless of times, especially with, the medicals, or to just admit a lot, and after first year, like half of them are let go, rather than taking those who are really qualified and taking them through the system. You think this is a deliberate ploy to, that's that trend?
Yes, I think that by even coming up with this policy, indirectly, Jamb is trying to demotivate Nigerian students to go for more, to do more. to aspire for more. This is the clear picture of, indirectly, it may not be so direct, but the undertone of this is someone is going to say, oh, meanwhile, that 150 is just about 37.5% of the total score of Jamb. That is what you are saying that someone can use to enter into the university. I schooled at the Faculty of Law, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. If you have 37.5%, that is below an F, because 39% is equally an F. So that is below an F. So if students are not motivated enough to go for the 300s, the 280s, the 270s, they are going to be struggling on below the belt around the 150, because they can, and it's going to make some of these students who have initial aspirations to study medicine, to study engineering, when they get what they have gotten, all they want to do is to enter the university. They are not even going. That is why at a point they start changing courses and dropping their courses. But if they know that if you don't get up to this score, you are not even going to enter the university in the first place, they are going to aspire for more. So the point you are making is extremely important, because when there is an allowance of this many number to go into the universities and they can't even reach the individual cutoff of several universities and the department, they are going to be, taken by the side. They are not going to be admitted. The ripple effect is that either these people now go to polytechnics, colleges of education, or they end up studying courses they did not prepare to study. Nothing is wrong with any course, but you see, someone's dream has been shortchanged simply because they couldn't reach a particular cutoff. So that is also part of the problem with this policy.
Interesting. Now, some people are saying Jamb is overrated. Why is the entrance unified? I mean, universities should be allowed to bring out their own standards, their own examinations, and they admit their students rather than everybody going through a unified funnel. What do you think? Is Jamb overrated?
I think Jamb is important. We've had discussions in the past about whether Jamb should be script, whether your WAEC should be enough for you to get an admission,
and then a post UTME,
and a post UTME from different universities. I think Jamb is necessary. I don't buy the idea that it should be script, but I think there's a lot of reforms that should happen in Jamb. Last year, it was reported that Jamb generated about 22 billion and then remitted about 6 billion to the government. So I see that institution from a lens, from a particular lens, as a commercial institution. They are making a lot of money remitting to the government, and the government is not ready. In fact, I think it is so unlikely to even consider scraping Jamb as at today. So if you talk about being overrated, I think universities they have what it takes to conduct examinations for candidates who want to take a study or take a course in their school. I think they have what it takes.
Well, we've seen it over time.
Yes, of course. With post-UTME, they do. So you have your WAEC and you write the post-UTME of the institution that you want to, pursue.
And you can write for several.
Yes, of course, you can. But this UTME, I think it is more or less serving a commercial purpose to the government.
So how is this serving the youth?
Well,
how has this served Nigerian youth over time?
Well, Jamb has claimed that it's coming up with, exam policies that even help the universities to be able to conduct their several post-UTMEs, because up to today, 50% of Nigerian tertiary institutions they are making use of Jamb scores exclusively for their admission. They are not doing post-UTME, they are not doing any other thing currently. About 30% are having a mix of your post-UTME and then your WAEC. Just about 20% are, are just are not doing it at all. So Jamb, in this case now, we can make the point that Jamb has really overstayed its usefulness. It has overstayed its usefulness. I'm not going to say that it should be scrapped, but it has overstayed its usefulness, because it's not, being realistic, I don't see it being scrapped, but let there be proper reform. Just like something we had in this year's Jamb, where a lot of technical glitches, students writing exams and getting below their scores and having to rewrite it again, and we even had someone commit suicide. So these are some of the things that, if they are correct, let Jamb as an institution be sanitized, let the system work, and whatever policy they are coming up with, let it serve the interest of the students and not necessarily the interest of the government. For example, I believe, in terms of sanitizing the institution, students should not have to pay so much for their Jamb forms. They should not have to pay so much for their Jamb forms. If they are, being fair to Nigerian students, why not reduce the form, so that there are people that cannot even afford a Jamb form today. So I am going to suggest that these reforms should be implemented in Jamb, and going forward, maybe it may still happen in the future when the government will decide that this no longer serves the purpose, because it's the creation of the government, and they will have to keep it by the side.
All right. So a young person, or a family of a young person who wants to gain admission into the university, looking at public universities and private universities, these policies, they don't have any hold on private universities. Now, I want you to see if there are any kind of good, for lack of a better word, or any kind of, I'm looking for the right word now.
Yes.
Given the private and the public, and Jamb has a hold on the public, what will make, aside financial reasons, what will make a family want their ward to go to a public university being influenced by Jamb, over and above a private university that doesn't have any kind of Jamb restrictions? I mean, what is the advantage? That's the word. What advantage does the influence of Jamb having over public universities? What's that advantage over the private?
Well, I think even if you are going into a private university, Jamb is still, you still need to take Jamb. It's still part of the requirements for private universities in Nigeria, So
all private universities?
Well, I am not sure if it's all private universities, but I do not know of any private university in Nigeria currently that does not, require your Jamb results or your Jamb score to gain admission there. But you are right when you say that the stronghold of Jamb is more on the public institutions, because these private institutions can find their way around their admission procedures, although all of them regulated by the National University Commission. But when you discuss these public schools, the public schools that are mandated by some of these Jamb policies, talking about the number of universities that you can, the number of students that you can admit in a particular session, you find that a young person has more disadvantage going into the public university because of these Jamb restrictions. And part of the discussions today now is the age restriction. Where they said that if you are below the age of 16, 16 now.
16 now.
Yes, 16 now. It's part of their policy recommendation a few days ago that you cannot be given admission into the universities. And that's a problem, because we know that some private universities, these laws do not hold them particularly. These laws do not hold them. So it's more on the public institutions where they monitor students who have, who are under 16 and they are trying to get admission in the universities. Why do you bring all these laws? Why do you punish brilliant students? if someone is 15 years, for instance, or 16 years, for instance, and they are ready to enter into the university,
why restrict them?
Why do you restrict them? Why do you restrict them? And I think it's not even just about the brilliance of the student. It's also about the preparation level. There are 15-year-olds today who are more prepared,
I agree,
to get into the tertiary institutions than their older counterparts. So if they have the preparation and they beat the cutoff mark, so why do you restrict them? So I believe these are some of the disadvantages that the public institutions have, because you go to some private institutions, you are going to see people that are below that age and they are given admission and they are doing very well.
It leaves one to wonder, because in other clients, especially in the West, you could find a 17-year-old graduate or a 27-year-old professor. I mean, if people have the cognitive prowess to advance, I wonder why we want to stop them. But regardless, aside the age restriction and the cutoff, what other policies were discussed in the stakeholders meeting?
Yes, I think they also talked about the CAPS, the Central Admission Processing System, which is very, very important, by the way. If you don't, the policy of Jamb is that the universities are not permitted to give you a direct admission. So even if the university is admitting you, it has to be Jamb admitting you on behalf of the institution. So the institution, they put up their requirements and then people apply. They take in your Jamb exams, your WAEC. If they have to do Pursuit ME, they do all of that. And then they will give admission to the qualified students and submit to Jamb. Jamb now gives you admission on behalf. That is why you have the Jamb admission letter. So what some universities do, unfortunately, is to give students admission directly without passing through Jamb, and it's a problem. There is something called Jamb CAPS. If your admission does not reflect on Jamb CAPS, you can start your studies and graduate from a department and you don't have an admission letter from Jamb. You are not even a graduate, because that is what you will use for your NYSC. That is what will truly testify that you have gone to not. So the universities, I don't know how they manage to walk away from that process and they give students admission in their number who do not have Jamb CAPS.
When did this paradigm start?
Well, I don't know, but I know people who have suffered tremendously because of this problem. Some of them graduate and the course they studied sometimes for up to 6 years, it has not reflected on the Jamb CAPS, just because it was not Jamb that gave them, they bypassed the due process. So I strongly believe that this regularization of admission should be paid attention to, because it's frustrating to some students. Let them stop bypassing the process of Jamb CAPS and giving admission to people directly. I think it's not just rolling out these policies. Jamb should enforce it. Jamb should make sure that they enforce it, to make sure that students don't suffer something that is absolutely avoidable.
Interesting. How can a student know that, hey, this admission bypassed the Jamb CAPS?
It's not going to, your admission is not going to appear on your CAPS. So some keep going to Jamb office to keep checking whether it's there already. So your current admission should be active on your Jamb CAPS. You should have an account there. So if you check it and it's not there, it's a problem. So I know some of our classmates who we graduated and theirs haven't even appeared yet. They keep going to Jamb, trying to rectify things. They send them back to the university. They go writing letters and all. It's a very long process.
Now, it seems as though, from what you're saying, it is not Jamb's fault, it's the university's fault.
Exactly.
Now, shouldn't there be a class action by affected students against the university? Isn't it advisable?
Yes, it is.
Justice?
It is. It is advisable to get justice. In Nigeria is not a country of litigation like that. Someone can suffer tremendous injustice, and maybe they don't have a means of voicing out. They just, we just, in one of the leaders' voice, he says it is suffering and smiling. So it is advisable to pursue an action against this, because this can be very, very frustrating. Talking about the age limit that we just spoke about, I think it was last year, a young David Ayolua, I think from one of the universities studying computer engineering, was given, the young boy, I think was 15 years old, and they said, we cannot give you your Jamb admission letter because you are below the age limit. You are not up to 16. And the boy had a beautiful Jamb's result, got admission from, and Jamb refused to give him his admission letter. And so he filed an action. Okay. That was last year, Lagos State High Court. And they said all manner of things that, he has, he's not up. There's a strict regulation as to the age requirement. And the boy's argument was, are you punishing me for being a brilliant student? Are you punishing me for getting admission to study computer engineering?
That's one question that Jamb hasn't quite answered.
No, they have not. They have not. So after all the arguments, the boy puts up section 42, discrimination, although in that section we don't have discrimination as to age. But it was part of this arbitrary age restriction is this in the spirit of the law. It's wrong.
What I know of governance or leadership is maybe you look to other clients that are doing well and you glean a few things. True. And then you domesticate or you adapt. Where did we get this precedence from? Where did we get this age restriction, idea from? Have you heard it happen in other West African countries or in the West? Anything close to it? Could you share?
I agree with you. In fact, when you talk about the university, we should be pursuing a universal standard, asking questions like, this policy, does it apply in South Africa? Does it apply in Mexico? Does it apply in Canada? Because the university is supposed to be a universal system of learning where anyone can fit into. But honestly, I don't know where we get some of these policies from.
Because so somebody will sleep and wake up and decide.
I don't know where we get these policies from. Outside the country, they have flexibility in their admission processes, flexibility to adapt cultural differences, flexibility to adapt persons living with disability.
Just to accommodate a wide range of students.
Yes, some of this flexibility exists, but you cannot see a tertiary institution in some of these working countries reducing their pass mark for any reason. It does not happen for any reason. They can give persons living with disability, maybe we give them a more conducive learning environment.
The policy is based on sentiment.
Thank you. So, but here we just say let's reduce Jamb cutoff mark so that we can accommodate people. I don't know where we get it. These are not universal policies. And we should be talking about pursuing the global standard rather than staying in our own cocoons and keep on doing things that don't work.
All right, thank you so much, Stephen Chima. But in 1 minute, can you speak a word to a young person there that is awaiting admission? Just in a minute, what would be your advice?
Okay, I want to really encourage the young people, especially the school leavers that are awaiting their admission. The system can be tough. The procedure can be very tough. We saw how many people went out with excitement, wrote Jamb, and they don't even get what they qualify to get. So I want to encourage you, do not give up on your dreams for anything. Whatever you want to study, it's still possible. That's right. I want you to, put more effort. Jamb is still next year. I like to tell to people, early preparation guarantees success. So start preparing on time, and I assure you that you are going to get it this time around.
All right, thank you so much, Stephen Chima, Youth Ambassador, talking about Jamb and new admission standards for tertiary institutions in Nigeria, the youth perspective. Thank you so much for your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Save Nature TV, news in your pocket.